Look at her, pretending she belongs here. My sister laughed loudly across the wedding table. Everyone knows she's just here for the money. Several guests turned to stare while my sister raised her glass like she'd just told the funniest joke of the night. My cousin's wedding suddenly went silent around me. Then a man I had never seen before stepped forward and placed a sealed bank file in my hands. And suddenly, my sister stopped smiling. My name is Danielle Harper. I'm 34 years old. I work as an administrative coordinator at a logistics company, the kind of job where you manage schedules, organize shipments, and keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes. I've always lived quietly and responsibly, paying my bills on time, saving where I could, building a life that felt stable, even if it wasn't flashy. My relationship with my family has always been complicated, especially with my older sister, Rachel. She's the one they always praised, the one with the impressive job title, the expensive car, the designer clothes that made everyone turn their heads at family gatherings. Growing up, I was constantly compared to Rachel. She had everything figured out, or so it seemed. She worked in sales for a tech company, traveled for business, posted photos from restaurants I couldn't afford. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one who kept her head down and focused on building something sustainable. What my family didn't know was that I'd been helping relatives financially in small ways for years. I'd lent money to cousins who needed rent, helped pay for a niece's school supplies, covered medical bills when someone was short. I never talked about it publicly because I didn't want attention or praise. I just did it because it felt right. But my family often assumed I had little success because I lived modestly and avoided bragging about my life. Rachel frequently joked that I only attended family events hoping to marry someone wealthy, that I was looking for a payday, that I couldn't make it on my own. Those comments hurt more than I let on, but I usually ignored them to keep peace in the family. I attended my cousin's wedding simply to support her and enjoy a rare family gathering where everyone was supposed to be happy. I never expected that night to become the moment my entire family learned the truth about me. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. If you've ever felt judged by your own family, you know how isolating that feels. Sometimes the people closest to you believe the worst about you without ever asking for the truth. If you've experienced similar family misunderstandings, subscribe and share your stories in the comments. Click like or hype before I explain what really happened that night. At the wedding reception, Rachel began loudly telling guests that I was only attending because wealthy relatives would be present. The reception was in a beautiful ballroom with string lights and flowers everywhere, music playing softly in the background. Rachel's voice cut through the conversation at our table. She said in front of everyone, "She's been single for years. She's waiting to catch someone with a big bank account." Some relatives laughed awkwardly while others watched me, waiting to see if I'd defend myself. I chose to stay calm and focus on the wedding celebration instead of arguing. I didn't want to ruin my cousin's special night. Rachel continued escalating, telling the groom's relatives that I'd once asked about inheritance money, which was completely false. I denied the claim quietly, but Rachel interrupted me. "Don't pretend now. Everyone knows you're here for a payday." The humiliation became public as nearby tables began whispering, people glancing over their shoulders at me. I felt my face getting hot, my hands clenching under the table. I considered leaving early to avoid ruining the wedding any further. Just as Rachel raised her voice again to repeat the accusation, an unfamiliar man in a dark suit approached me. He said calmly, "Miss Harper, I was asked to deliver this to you tonight," and handed me a sealed bank file with my name printed clearly on the front. Rachel immediately mocked the moment, laughing and saying, "See, I told you she's chasing money." But when I opened the envelope and started reading the documents inside, the mood in the room changed instantly. Rachel spread the story around the reception, moving from table to table, telling guests I was trying to claim money that belonged to other family members. She made it sound like I was scheming, like I was manipulating everyone. Some relatives began confronting me, pulling me aside near the bar, accusing me of creating drama at the wedding. I remained quiet, but kept the bank file with me, studying its contents carefully, reading every line. Then Rachel posted photos from the wedding online, with captions implying I was manipulating relatives for financial gain. The posts went up within an hour, tagged with family members, visible to everyone we knew. Family members began messaging me, telling me I should apologize to Rachel for embarrassing the family, for causing a scene. I realized Rachel was trying to control the narrative before anyone learned the truth, before anyone actually asked me what was in that envelope. Later that evening, Rachel cornered me near the dance floor, her voice sharp and angry. She demanded to know what was inside the envelope, what I was trying to pull. Rachel said loudly, loud enough for people nearby to hear, "Whatever stunt you're trying tonight won't change what everyone thinks about you." I finally responded calmly, keeping my voice steady. "Rachel, you should be careful about accusing people without knowing the full story." Rachel laughed and turned to nearby relatives. "She's bluffing. She's always been full of excuses." But I quietly asked the wedding host to gather several family members for an announcement. I needed to set the record straight. What my family never knew was that for years I'd been working with a financial advisor and quietly managing assets left to me by an elderly relative who trusted my responsibility. Our grandfather, who passed away 5 years ago, had set up a trust before he died. He wanted to make sure the family had a safety net, something that could help with emergencies, education costs, medical bills. He chose me as the trustee because he believed I was the most responsible person in the family, the one who wouldn't waste it or use it for personal gain. I never revealed this inheritance because I wanted to build my own career without family expectations, without people treating me differently because of money. The bank file contained documents confirming my role as the trustee of a significant financial account tied to multiple family members. The stranger who delivered the file was the bank representative assigned to confirm the trust arrangement and provide updated information now that certain conditions in the trust had been met. I remember thinking as I read those documents, what they didn't know was that the person they called irresponsible was the one managing the family's financial safety net. All that time, I'd stayed quiet, while others underestimated me. While Rachel told everyone I was chasing money, I'd been protecting theirs. My cousin Emily, the bride, noticed the tension building and quietly asked me what was going on. She pulled me aside near the entrance to the venue, away from the crowd. I explained part of the situation and showed Emily the bank documents, the trust paperwork, the letters from our grandfather. Emily was shocked, her hand covering her mouth as she read. She realized Rachel may have been completely wrong about me, that everything she'd said was based on assumptions. The bank representative confirmed he was instructed to deliver the documents to me during the wedding weekend while multiple family members were present, because the trust required certain disclosures to be made in person. Emily encouraged me to clarify the situation before rumors spread further, before Rachel's version became the only version people believed. Meanwhile, Rachel continued telling guests I'd tried to create drama for attention, that I was desperate and jealous. Several relatives now believed Rachel's version of events, nodding along, avoiding me at the reception. I realized the only way to stop the accusations was to reveal the truth publicly, to show everyone what was actually happening. Emily agreed to let me speak briefly before the final wedding toast, giving me a moment to address everyone. Rachel, confident she'd already embarrassed me beyond repair, eagerly stayed to watch what she thought would be my humiliation. During the reception toast, after the speeches and the cake cutting, I calmly asked for a moment to address the accusations made about me earlier that evening. The DJ lowered the music and handed me the microphone. Rachel immediately rolled her eyes and whispered loud enough for people nearby to hear that I was about to make excuses. I explained that I'd never chased family money because I'd been responsible for protecting it. I opened the bank file and showed documents proving I was the trustee of a financial account created by our late grandfather. I held up the papers so people could see the official letterhead, the signatures, the legal language. The trust was established years ago to support future family emergencies and education funds, money set aside specifically to help the people in this room when they needed it most. I revealed the bank representative was present to confirm the documents and provide updated information to the family, that his appearance wasn't random or suspicious. The representative stepped forward and explained that I was chosen as trustee because I was the only relative with consistent financial records and responsible history, the only one our grandfather felt he could trust with something this important. Several guests gasped as they realized Rachel had publicly insulted the very person managing the family trust, the person who'd been quietly helping them for years. Rachel attempted to argue, her voice shaking. That doesn't mean anything. She could be lying. But the bank representative calmly confirmed the documents were legitimate, that everything I'd said was true and verifiable. I explained I'd never wanted recognition and only wanted to respect our grandfather's wishes, to honor the responsibility he'd given me. Rachel suddenly became silent as relatives began questioning why she'd accused me so aggressively, why she'd spread rumors without knowing the facts. After the announcement, the atmosphere at the wedding shifted dramatically. The tension in the room changed from judgment to shock, from suspicion to understanding. Some relatives quietly approached me to apologize for believing Rachel's accusations, for not asking me directly what was happening. Rachel became defensive and claimed she was only joking, that she didn't mean it seriously. But the damage to her credibility was clear. People looked at her differently now. I reassured Emily that I never intended to overshadow her wedding and thanked my cousin for trusting me enough to let me speak. Emily hugged me and told me she was glad the truth came out. Over the following weeks, family members began reaching out to me for guidance about the trust and financial planning, asking questions they'd never asked before, treating me with a respect I hadn't experienced from them in years. Rachel avoided discussing the incident and rarely attended family gatherings afterward. When she did show up, she was quiet, subdued, no longer the center of attention. I reflected on how years of silence had allowed others to underestimate me, how staying quiet had protected me, but also left me vulnerable to their assumptions. I realized I no longer needed to defend myself to people who refused to understand the truth. They thought silence meant weakness, but sometimes silence is just patience waiting for the truth. Have you ever been publicly accused or embarrassed by someone in your own family? Sometimes the loudest person in the room is the one who knows the least about the truth. Share your own stories of family misunderstandings or public accusations in the comments. Speaking up at the right moment can change everything. Click hype to help this story reach others who need to hear it.